Hello, everyone. This is Karan Takar, and welcome to the Zenergy podcast. Over the past decade, India has done an impressive job of integrating renewable energy into its energy mix. For this Fulbright podcast series, I sought to investigate the enabling factors and potential of India's global leadership in renewable energy, with a focus on solar. This Fulbright series is broken down into 4 seasons. In this season, through conversations with leaders who have been instrumental in developing the Indian renewable energy sector, we will highlight how India has managed to integrate 35 gigawatts of solar in just a span of 10 years. We will also explore what these leaders believe the key challenges to be as this sector further develops. In this conversation, we will be speaking with Mr. Ashish Khanna, who's the president of Tata Power and has a background in engineering from IIT Delhi. In this conversation, Mr. Khanna gives us insight into the hurdles that the solar energy sector has yet to overcome to meet its targets, as well as the potential of renewable energy to serve as a platform to strengthen the US-India partnership. Our conversation concludes with advice from Mr. Khanna to the younger generation, explaining how the RE industry has significant entrepreneurial opportunities, which he encourages young people to get involved in. And would like to add one very quick note. We had some Wi-Fi connectivity issues for the first 10 minutes or so please bear with us, as the insights shared by Mr. Khanna are too good to miss. I highly recommend you listen to this audio with headphones, and then everything should smoothen out after the 10-minute mark or so. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mr. Ashish Khanna. So in a talk titled The Future of Solar Energy, I heard you mention that in the current Indian energy mix, electricity is only providing around 19% of the total energy requirements. And by 2050, this 19% is going to go towards around 49%. I'm curious to hear if you can expand on these numbers, and also in order for the solar sector to successfully tap into this increase in electricity consumption, what do you believe are the main hurdles the sector must overcome?
Yeah, Karan, so the projections of 19%, which is the current reality, to 49% was not mine, they were Bloomberg's. But we all know that the way the EV is actually entering into the automotive sector, in the next 2 or 3 decades, there will be a huge requirement. We also believe that, and I am a firm believer that with this distributed generation, which is going to play an important role in areas which are not having in this world grid connected power, I think there are solutions on distributed generation which will also help us. As well as the sense of renewable is concerned, you have to appreciate the fact that if you look at in the last decade itself, I'm not talking about the future, but if I just look at the last decade itself, the PV cost, we call it a price, has reduced by around 86%. It has primarily come because of the technology inputs and the advancement which has happened in this particular area. Today we have a cost of PV power which is the cheapest. We are talking of a 2 cents, 1 cent. In India we have 3 US cents power which people are putting for next 25 years as a fixed cost. There is 1 cent and even less than that in other part of the world. What is it reflecting? It's reflecting that the cost of electricity power coming from the industry are going to go low. That's a fact of life which we have experienced, and that is, if we consider propagated for future on a long-term basis, is going to remain. It's not going back. We are not going back from less than a cent to 5 cents ever, even if we maintain the same technology. As more and more investments are happening, I am very conscious and aware of the fact that this is going to go even further low. You asked about the impediments. So I think before the impediments, let's talk about the opportunities. The opportunity of electricity playing a very, very important and a majority role in the total energy mix, I don't think so there is any dispute about it. The only dispute is whether the energy consumption will grow to the level which people are projecting. But give or take few basis points here and there, I think it is going to be there. It is going to increase by around 2.5 times. The advantage which we have today is that you have a renewable source which is distributed. You have a renewable source which is not dependent on any variability. Today, when I set up a wind or a solar plant, I don't look for a coal or a oil coming from another country. I have a clear-cut data point on how the sun is going to behave in a particular manner, definitely for next 25 to 30 years. With that predictability in place, I have a certainty of my cost as well as prices. The second part, which you asked for a impediment, I think the few points which we have to be very conscious is we need to not overlook the quality. Let's appreciate the fact that the fossil fuel based energy sources have matured for a long period of time. The IC engines, even frame 5, frame 7 machines for gas turbine, subcritical, supercritical boilers, and the technologies around it, they all have matured for a very long time now. Today, all our new installations are based on certain assumptions. Everything is on a PowerPoint or an Excel sheet. It is time to pass through a 25-year test to see whether my assumptions of producing power will remain in that manner or not, or maybe my degradation will be huge. There are other factors which I have not done. It can actually make a business case goes for a loss. That will be a challenge. I think the biggest impediment is that rather than going for a short-term view where I build a project and see for the next 6 months it is working, we need to build projects which can last for more than 25 years. The second point is technology. Today we are focusing towards how to prove that renewable is a good alternate source. I think important factor is how let us build how renewables can align with the fossil fuel for the betterment of the future. We cannot wish a coal away. We should not be doing that. Rather than one versus other, we need to have technologies which co-align it for the betterment of the humanity as well as the society for which we all are working. The third factor, which is also very critical, is by nature it's an infirm power. And unless we bring solutions which are equally cost effective and make it a 24 by 7 power, we are not going to help on a long term basis. Maybe we can sell it to a grid with my PLF of 25%, but then I have an infrastructure on a transmission line which can take 100% PLF. So I am going to waste that just because I'm pumping clean power. So today, if you look at it, where I personally feel there is an impediment that when I'm talking about a hybrid project, then I have a wind coming from somewhere, solar coming from somewhere. I have an inverter in that wind and I have an inverter in the solar. They are not one inverter which can be utilized for both. If you actually graph and plot a 24-hour and a 12 months performance of wind projects, and then you superimpose on performance of a solar project, in most of the cases you will realize that when the wind is low, the solar is high, and vice versa. So you can actually enhance a lot of PLF and bring it to a 50% level if we use it judiciously. But today, this hybrid is not actually hybrid. It is 1 plus 1, 2. We're not joining one, both of them. We are not utilizing technology to the sense of creating better solutions. Today, our whole focus is towards how to reduce costs. So I think, in nutshell, we need to be much more mature. In nutshell, we should think what is best for this industry rather than just going for optics. And in nutshell, we should co-align rather than fighting with other sources of power. These are three things on a long term. On a short term, I think we need a storage. We need a storage very badly, very quickly. I also think that we need certain policy frameworks where the renewable distribution generation is not competing with the grid. We should be able to serve the community And then above all, we should be able to generate entrepreneurs rather than only supplying power at the household level and then saying that we have achieved our targets. I think it's a long answer to your short question, but that's what I believe.
No, very nice answer and provided a lot of good clarity. And it leads nicely into my next question, which involves entrepreneurship within the solar and renewable energy sector. And particularly, so during my experience engaging in India, I interacted with a lot of younger, very enthusiastic people who are looking to get involved in the renewable energy industry. And that's one of the purposes behind these interviews, is to share with them where maybe there's some opportunity for them to get involved. And I would like to ask you, if a young person would like to start a company in India today in the Indian renewable energy sector, where do you believe they should focus their efforts? Like, where's the opportunity?
I've been saying it more often than I should, but I believe that this is the next IT for this country. And I have certain reasons for it. The first is that, when I was young and when I was in college, at that time the IT was coming in, the IT companies were coming in, and there were a lot of startups. You see what was happening out there. In fact, there were established organizations like IBM and others who were very established, hardcore big companies. And then there were startups which were growing up at that particular time. If you ask me, at that time, even Apple was not in the manner it was today. There were lots of evaluation which has happened in Apple too. But yes, even those organizations were at a different level. Having done that, I've actually experienced that how those organizations or those startups have come out so well in the last 2 or 3 decades. I think renewable industry is also at the same level today. We are at that cusp. You have this some major companies which will be very soon will have their own role to play, and you will have another set of companies which are growing up. If I give you an example, and why do I believe this theory works? It's my personal philosophy is working. When I look at the top 10 companies, say today in renewable industry in this country, when I look at them, or if you name them, the top 10, 7 of them has only emerged in this decade. They were absolutely non-existent a decade back. And this is, if you look at it, it's an amazing evolution, which only happens in IT. If you look at in similarities out there, 7 of them doesn't exist or not in existence in early 2000s and are among the top 10 companies in renewable segment. Some of them has more renewables as a portfolio than others who are in the industry for 5 decades or 10 decades. And they have even more assets with them than those companies, fossil fuel as well as renewable assets put together. This is what they have achieved in such a short time. It is very similar to when you look at the IT industries on how so many companies in the last 1 or 2 decades have outgrown so many who were there for ages. And I think that is the cusp where we are in this segment. You ask me where a new entrepreneur should look at. I think where are the strengths with for an engineer in this part of the world, and what has worked well for our engineers in the past, in the industry they are in, and as an individual and as an entrepreneur. I think what has worked well for us is our acumen to invest in certain technologies, to invest in those technologies and come out with a solution. Our strength is not to build a bigger organizations in this space. Our strength of engineers has been to come out with a certain solutions. If you look, where was Oyo? Where was Flipkart? We talk about Amazon, but that's outside the world. But if you look at where was Ola, they are changing the model. They have changed the conventional model in which the industry works. They have changed the model where the capital is not required. How have they done it? They have done it with the technology. What has helped them? There was a technology which was available. What has helped them? That there was a market which was available. If I create a similar model for, say, current 2.0 in this place, not in Washington, D.C., but Delhi capital, today we have an opportunity where the rooftop has to grow. Unlike Europe, we have a very different requirements. In this country, rooftop has to grow, distribution generation has to grow. In operations and maintenance, the technology is required. We are very, very primitive. I'm saying primitive from a standpoint that we are actually doing in the last 1 decade. We have not changed much in the way the technology can be infused on it. Companies like us are investing a lot on it. But there could be solutions which these youngsters can bring across, which can be a game changer for the whole industry. And that is where I'm coming from. There is an opportunity here where entrepreneur doesn't need to first infuse 500 crores of his own equity and then become an entrepreneur. You can create solutions like what has been created in IT, make a value addition. And what is our strength in this part of the world, especially in India, is our services. The strengths are not in hardware, the strengths are in services. And we have all the right technologies to begin with. There is no reason why individuals, entrepreneurs in this industry will not do good. And this industry is not only building projects. While you are building projects too, there is so much which one can do. While you are operating plants too, there is so much which you can do. So there is a hell of an opportunity here for those to come forward and get a solution.
Remaining on this track of entrepreneurship in the renewable energy industry, and reflecting through the lens of your own experience, if you could give one piece of guidance or advice to the younger generation who are just getting started on their own professional path, what would that be?
I would only tell them to listen to their heart. And if their heart lies in renewables, just immerse in it. I know it is the initial setbacks, the initial resistance. It is non-conventional way of working. But in this world we are in, the success will come and the future is there. You know, the only challenge which I see if I go back and I look for a goal which is more to do with other factors than my own heart in it, I think I have failed or I have not done well. Whenever I have tried to achieve something which my heart tells me to achieve, it has taken a longer time, but it has been so fulfilling and so satisfying and so rewarding that if I go back, I will take away all those decisions which I have taken because of other factors. And in my business or personal life, will go by my heart. Believe me, you will get the right sense. You have all the knowledge today. It is so easy to get distracted with your colleagues. It's people making more money than you at that particular stage. But in on a long run, you will have a very amazing life if you continue that path. That's the only suggestion I have for them.
Very nice. And I would like to hear, like, in which area do you believe a partnership could occur in for both the U.S. and India within the renewable energy space?
You see, today, if you look at the way we are utilizing the available technology, then we have one panel, more or less, which we are using for putting it on a roof for a rooftop, and then we are using the same for a distributed generation. It's all cookie cutter, and it's cookie cutter only because the cost element of producing that panel is lowest in the current scenario. What is the advantage of this particular industry is that technology is changing very fast. Everyone is investing and it is changing very fast. I think there are opportunities, and I personally know that Tata Universe is doing pretty advanced work. Now, there are technologies which can suit a certain purpose. Why do we all have to only set up utility scale projects and look at the optics? Indian roofs are not European roofs. Indian requirements are not European requirements. Indian advantage with respect to providing technology and services for operation and maintenance is something which there is a strength and can be utilized across the world. So there is, we are not the best in R&D or investments in R&D. US has been the inventor for most of the technology in the world. Most of whether we talk of Edison or anyone else, the US has pioneered in this investments in R&D and coming out with more and more inventions. They are the innovators of the world for a very long time. If we take that forward and bring the strengths of India in servicing it, and also, so that is a business model for the rest of the world and also for both these countries. We can export this combination where the innovation comes from US, Indian with their strength of servicing it can then make it, or even if it require manufacturing, can make it without infringing on the patents. There are successful, I would say, examples of India-US technology transfer where patents were not infringed upon or copied. There is a sense of respect at both sides. So if US innovations on this particular area of renewable, whether it is wind or solar, coupled with the manufacturing in this country, which can be low cost, also when we add the service aspect from India, for India as well as for outside, we have Africa, we have all other regions. I think there is an amazing combination which is possible. We have the ingredients, we have done it in the past. We just need to glue it together. It is only a matter of time, but I do feel that let it happen early. Today we are in a position where those particular inventions and technologies have gone beyond the lab level. They have reached the manufacturing level. We can leapfrog to the next generation. Then we can set up those manufacturing here or in US and then work out together. I think both of us are very well placed. Just that we need to come together, look at both the strengths which we appreciate in the past. We have just not felt distracted in this process and break larger business sense for both the countries. India itself is a huge requirement. And then combined with it for India and abroad, it's the best of both the business worlds, best for both the democracies, best for the world as such.
I hope you enjoyed that episode, and do check out the show notes for more information on my guest. See you next time.